So hi guys, it's Tamara. I want to talk a little bit about the holiday season that we are currently in. Christmas is coming up, and a lot of my clients are struggling with one thing or another, and I want to use this time to talk to you a little bit about that and to give you some tips on how to deal with the holiday. So this will be a short video. I don't want to make this video too long. At the same time, I want to give you good information. So I just ended a session with a client, and I realized in that session that a lot of people are feeling like she feels. They don't want to deal with the holiday season. They're really upset and worried about, that day, Christmas Day and New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. Those 3 days, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day, are really hard for some people. Because as you know, holidays mainly talk about relationships and, or I shouldn't say talk about, but they reflect relationships and social connection. And if you're depressed and you're anxious, then, you're not going to want to connect with other people, and you're not going to be able to feel happy and joyous about your connection. So, I want to give you a few tips that some of my clients report have been very helpful to them. So I'm hoping that you gain something from this video as well. So the first thing that I typically suggest for my clients is to focus on the real reason for the season. I think a lot of people get caught up and swept up in the fantasy of the holiday, right? You have the kids' fantasy of Santa Claus and reindeer and, snowflakes and all of those things that are really cute and special. But if you get caught up in those things too much, I think that's where the depression starts to set in. So you want to focus on what this is all about, right? You want to focus on the fact that, this is downtime for you. You get to rest, you get to have a vacation. This is reflection time, because the new year is right around the corner. Next month, we're going to be faced with a lot of new things. So you want to spend this time reflecting and growing and looking at the changes over the course of the year. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is usually, and I say this mainly to most of my young clients, like children and teens who have had a pretty difficult upbringing, to avoid the commercialism. Don't get swept up in the commercialism of Santa Claus and candy canes and Christmas Day with presents everywhere and, close families celebrating. I think that's wonderful if that's what your family consists of. But if you don't have that kind of a family or that kind of a fairy tale storyline, then it's very easy to feel like a failure. It's very easy to feel very depressed and all alone. So I typically encourage my clients to avoid the commercialism. Focus on other things that are essential, such as gratitude, having a place to sleep and eat every day, having clothes on you, having safety and security, and having peace of mind, right? Being healthy in mind and body. Those are very important things to focus on. So Christmas doesn't have to be so commercialized. I think it's unhealthy when Christmas becomes, almost like a ballot or a ticket to Fantasyland, right? I think it's bad when that happens. I think it's beautiful if that's the way life is for you, but if it's not, I think the best thing to do is avoid commercialism. All right, the third thing is don't feel bad about not having family. I think a lot of people feel bad that they don't have a family and they feel all alone, right? I mean, life is life. Maybe you didn't grow up with a mother or father. Maybe you were adopted or in multiple foster homes, right? Maybe your parents abandoned you. Maybe your parents are now deceased. Maybe your parents are angry with you and you're separated. Family is not what fantasy tells us it is, right? A lot of families struggle. A lot of families are separated. A lot of families are dealing with mental illness and mental health conditions that put strain on the relationships within the family. We also have divorce and separation in multiple families. There's been trauma and abuse. So all of those things need to be considered when it comes to this holiday, when it comes to Christmas time and New Year's. So don't feel bad if that's you. Don't feel bad about not having a family. I think everybody is going to experience a loss at some point in their life. And if that just happens to be you this Christmas holiday, I certainly want to offer you the hope and the peace of mind needed to get through this holiday season, just by telling you that you don't need to feel bad about not having family. You might miss them. You might wish things were different. And I think that is absolutely okay. But to feel that you are a nobody because of not having family, that's awful. So don't get swept up in that fantasy that you must have family around this time of year. The other thing is to reach out. One of the things that I find not only rewarding but beneficial to me as a person is reaching out to other people, giving them information that I have and that I've learned. So I want to encourage you to do that. Volunteering, donating, talking to someone who's homeless on the street, giving them hope, donating to them, giving them money, maybe donating at a women's shelter or reaching out to kids who are abused and neglected, doing something that allows you and pushes you to move out and reach out to other people. So I think that's another way to cope with this time. Also, going to shopping malls or shopping centers, that might be kind of comforting for some people who are lonely and are struggling with being alone with their thoughts. I think going to the mall and just sitting and enjoying the people walking by and the kids playing, I'm sure it's going to be decorated with holiday things. So maybe going to the mall and just getting something to eat and just sit there, right? Soak in all the liveliness from the mall. Some people like doing that. I know elderly people really enjoy that. People who are very lonely and depressed also like going to malls. It gets them out of their thoughts. It gets them focusing on other people and things. And it also allows them to be around people as a distraction. So that's another tip. The other thing is peaceful reflection. One of the things that I do around this time of year is I peacefully reflect. I love reflecting on the year. I like reflecting on growth. I love reflecting on my faith in God. So I think for you, I want to encourage you to do that. I think for you, it's going to be important around this time, if you're struggling with this holiday, to allow yourself to think over the past year or the soon-to-be past year, right? What milestones have you achieved? What do you think have been major milestones for you this year? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you need to do more of in 2018? What do you need to change in 2018? So using this time to reflect on that, allowing your mind to rest in peace and prepare for the new year coming up. I think that's very important. The other thing is group therapy and a therapist, right? If you're struggling during this time of year, I think it's okay to reach out to a group therapist. Being in a psychotherapy group might be very helpful. You're going to learn tools and skills. You're going to be around other people who may be struggling like you. You're going to have the opportunity to reach out to other people who are struggling. And you're also going to have access to a therapist who leads the group. Psychotherapy groups are mainly supportive. So if that's the kind of environment that you want, I encourage you to go to www.psychologytoday.com, click on Find a Therapist, put your zip code in, and search for group therapists. Schedule a first appointment, see if you like it. You can't lose anything. Just go and see if you click, and if you don't click, leave. I think that that should be an option for you. If you're not a big group therapy fan and being around people suffocates you or makes you anxious, find an individual therapist. And if you already have an individual therapist, cling to them even more during this time. Ask them for tips, ask them for information on how you can help yourself. I think having a therapist around this time of year is very beneficial and therapeutic. All right, guys, I have two more things, and then we're going to wrap up. The other thing is the crisis hotline, right? We have thousands of crisis hotlines. If you just Google crisis hotline, up will come suicide crisis hotline, peer support and advocacy, mental health support. Cling to those hotlines. Always have a number handy so that you can have access to supportive people. This is one interesting organization. They are in Pennsylvania. They are called Resolve, and they are an interesting hotline, a crisis network, I should say. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to necessarily give your phone number. You can just call a crisis hotline and talk to somebody and say, look, I'm struggling with the holiday. I just need somebody to talk to. And I think that that's okay to do. You can Google Resolve if that would be helpful to you. And the final suggestion that I have is read and educate yourself. Use this time of year to research articles and blog posts and podcasts and radio interviews that talk about dealing with the holiday. There's a lot of articles on coping with the holiday. There's a lot of podcasts on what to do to cope and to stay afloat until it's all over. You can also go to my website at anchoredknowledge.com and click on, I think the tab is counseling and psychology, or the tab may be blogs. I have a variety of blog posts that I've added. I have articles from guest appearances. I have podcast interviews where I've been interviewed. Check into those. I talk a lot about relationships and coping and depression and anxiety. You can also go to my international blog at blogs.psychcentral.com/caregivers, and you can also look up some of the things that I have there where I talk about ways to cope during this holiday time. But I certainly encourage you to educate yourself and get yourself moving in the right direction for 2018. All right, guys, so thank you so much for being with me today, and I do hope that some of these tips will be helpful to you. I want to make sure that you feel supported and that you have the tools needed to move forward. So I encourage you, go to my website, anchoredknowledge.com, send me an email or a message if this has been helpful to you, or if you have suggestions or ways that you have coped. I'm open to those too. I will post them, I will tweet them, and try to get other people to recognize them if you find those tips that you usually go by or have helpful. So feel free to send me a video message or an audio message, I should say, on my website at anchoredknowledge.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. It'll say audio message, and there you can leave me an audio message. You can also contact me at Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @therapist. Send me a tweet. You can also email me at contact@anchoredknowledge.com. All right, guys, thanks so much for being with me